fast, where truth moves faster than a Holstein calf. No waiting on some pretty page. We're charting new ground in the digital age. From genomic codes to robotic facts, we cut through the noise, no holding back. Not your daddy's dairy news tonight. We're sparking debates with every insight. The ring's not where the real fight's at. It's in the data, in the channel chat. From pasture to processor to your morning cup, we're raising the stakes. Try and get ahead of herd. Yeah! Where the future's more than just a word. Ahead of herd. Come on! The bullvine's calling, let your voice be heard.
Welcome back to the Bullvine Podcast, where we cut through dairy industry noise to get you the insights that actually matter for your operation. If you're looking for sugar-coated press releases or the standard corporate line, you are definitely in the wrong place.
Yeah, we're just not doing that today.
No, we're not. We are here to look at the hard truths, right? The numbers, the regulations, and the realities of the dairy business. And today we're doing a deep dive into a feature piece about the tragedy at Prospect Valley Dairy.
And folks, I'm going to be honest right out of the gate here. This is a really heavy one. We talk about milk prices. We talk about genetics feed costs every single week. But today we are talking about the ultimate cost.
We are. And this isn't just a news recap. This is an operational warning for you. We are looking at an incident where 6 men died in a single pump room incident in Colorado on August 20th, 2025. Six. And I want to set the stage here immediately because the headline is shocking, but the details are what should, frankly, scare the hell out of every operator listening right now.
Let's ground this for everyone listening in the tractor cab right now or sitting in the farm office. This wasn't some freak 1 in a million explosion involving experimental tech.
Right.
Or some new digester system that nobody really understands yet. This was a manure management system pipe disconnection. A pipe broke.
Which happens constantly.
Exactly. I don't know a single farmer listening to this who hasn't dealt with a busted pipe or a clog in the manure system. It happens every single day. It's the most mundane thing on a dairy.
It's totally routine until it isn't.
Yeah.
But this time the outcome was catastrophic, and the aftermath revealed some terrifying economics and legal realities that most producers are just completely blind to.
Yeah, they really are.
The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, OSHA, eventually handed down their fines. And when you do the math, the agency effectively valued these human lives at roughly $41,101 each.
$41,000. That hits hard. We are talking about preventing a farm-ending event for the price of, what, 2 cows? Okay. Maybe a little less, depending on your genetics.
That is the crux of what we're unpacking today.
Yeah.
We're going to look at the rescue cascade, which is why 1 death turned into 6. We're going to look at the ag gap, why OSHA couldn't charge more or pursue criminal jail time, even if they wanted to.
And we're going to look at the hardware versus human cost. Why do we not hesitate to sign a check for a $200,000 robot, but we balk at a $900 gas monitor? It's a hard conversation, but we have to have it.
We certainly do. So let's get into the deep dive. Segment 1, the incident. Let's identify the problem here.
All right, set the scene for us.
So we are at Prospect Valley Dairy, operating as Prospect Ranch, LLC. This is near Keenesburg, Colorado. It's August 20th, 2025, about 6:30 p.m., so Wednesday evening.
Sun's probably starting to go down end of the shift.
Yeah.
For some, maybe the beginning for others.
Exactly. And the trigger, as you mentioned, was a pipe disconnection in the manure management system inside an enclosed pump room.
And for those who haven't worked with enclosed systems, or maybe you're used to open lagoons out back, that pump room essentially becomes a trap.
It does.
It's not just a room with a pump in it. It's a highly contained environment. When that manure water starts flowing, it's not just the mess. It's the gas.
Hydrogen sulfide,
right.
H2S. And I want to spend a minute here on the physics of this because the report goes into detail that most general safety briefs just completely miss. H2S is heavier than air. The specific gravity is 1.19.
Okay, stop right there. Specific gravity 1.19. Translate that for the non-chemist.
Sure. So regular air is 1.0. Anything heavier than 1.0 sinks. So H2S acts like water. It doesn't float away through a vent in the ceiling. It fills the room from the bottom up like water filling a bathtub.
Wow.
Yeah. So if you're standing in that room, the gas is rising around your ankles, then your waist and your chest.
And it's pushing the oxygen out as it rises.
Exactly. It displaces the breathable air entirely. But it's also highly toxic on its own. And it is incredibly deceptive. You smell rotten eggs at low levels. But at high levels, it knocks out your sense of smell instantly.
This is what they call olfactory fatigue.
Yes,
right?
exactly. And this is the trap. You walk in, you smell the eggs, and you think, okay, it smells bad, but I can handle it. Then suddenly the smell is just gone.
And your brain interprets that as the danger being gone. Oh, the wind must have shifted or the gas cleared.
Right. But in reality, the concentration is just spiked so high that it paralyzed your olfactory nerve. You think you're safe, but you are actually in the kill zone.
That is just terrifying because your senses are lying to you. You are trusting your nose and your nose is dead.
Correct. And at those high concentrations, we're talking 500, 700 parts per million. It causes what they call knockdown.
Knockdown.
Yeah, it's not a slow suffocation where you get dizzy and need to sit down.
Yeah.
It's immediate paralysis of the respiratory system. You take one breath, your lungs stop working, and you drop.
Which perfectly explains why they didn't just run out.
They couldn't.
Yeah.
They physically couldn't. The toll here was devastating. We really need to name them because these aren't just statistics in a spreadsheet.
No, they're real people. Let's hear them.
Orlando Espinoza Cruz, 50 years old. His son, Oscar Espinoza Leos. He was just 17, a high school senior.
A senior in high school, working as an intern. That, as a father, that one really gets you. You think about a kid that age just getting his feet wet in the industry, learning the ropes.
It really does. Then there was Carlos Espinoza Prado, 29, another son. Jorge Sanchez Pena, 36, a son-in-law. Ricardo Gomez Galvin, 40. And Noe Montañez Casañas, 32, a veterinarian from Mexico. 4
of those 6 were from the same extended family. The Espinosas, on a dairy, your crew becomes your family anyway. You spend more time with them than you do your own spouse sometimes. But here it literally was family.
Literally family.
They were a tight-knit crew, hardworking, humble guys. Imagine the impact on that operation, on that community. You wipe out 3 generations of men in one evening.
And it happened so incredibly fast. The timeline is chilling. 6:30 p.m., a pipe disconnects. One employee from Fisk Inc., the contractor, and one from Prospect Ranch go in to stop the flow. They are overcome by gas. They drop.
And then the human instinct kicks in.
4 others go in to save them. And none of them come out.
This is what we call the rescue cascade. And frankly, this is the part that scares me the most because I know how that feels.
Yeah.
You see your buddy or your dad or your son collapse. You don't think, let me check the atmospheric monitors. You don't think, where's the SCBA gear? You think I have to get them out right now?
That's the psychology of death in these confined spaces. The source material highlights Purdue University's Agricultural Confined Space Incident Database. It shows roughly 11% of livestock waste incidents involve multiple victims.
I'm actually surprised it's only 11%, honestly. Because that instinct is so powerful, it overrides everything else. But here's the kicker from the report, and this is highly controversial. A supervisor on site reportedly told them not to go in.
That's right. Denver 7 reported that a supervisor explicitly said do not enter. But they did anyway. Why do you think that is?
Because in that moment, words just don't matter. That tells me this isn't about hearing a rule in a classroom once a year. It's about muscle memory. If you haven't drilled it, if you haven't trained your body to physically stop when you see a body on the ground, the adrenaline takes over.
Yeah.
Your lizard brain says go, and you just go.
The source compares this to the Noel Spence case in Northern Ireland from 2012. It's hauntingly similar. A dairy farmer, Noel Spence, fell into a slurry tank. His 2 sons, Graham and Mevin, went in after him. All 3 died.
And there was a daughter involved too, right?
Emma. She tried to go in too. She only survived because neighbors or rescuers physically pulled her back.
See, that's the key takeaway here. If you don't have a specific plan, if you don't have a team designated to stop people from entering, the first victim is just bait for the second and third. It sounds harsh to say bait, but that's exactly what the gas uses them for.
It is harsh, but it's totally accurate. The gas doesn't care about your intentions. It doesn't care that you're trying to be a hero. It just kills you. And that brings us to the aftermath. The legal aftermath. We need to talk about OSHA. Because 6 months later, the fines landed and the industry kind of paused and said, wait, that's it.
Yeah, walk us through the money here. Because when I saw the headlines, I thought there would be zeros trailing off the page. I thought surely for 6 lives, we are looking at millions in federal fines.
You would think so. But let's look at the actual numbers. Total proposed fines, $246,609. That is split against 3 companies. Prospect Ranch LLC, the dairy, got hit with $132,406. That was for failure to protect from hazards, no written program, failure to train.
Okay, and the contractors?
Fisk Inc. and High Plains Robotics.
Yeah.
They employed 4 of the victims, got fined $99,306. And a third contractor, HD Builders, got about $15,000.
So you add that all up, divide by 6 lives.
And you get $41,101.50 per person.
That is less than the price of a mid-range pickup truck. That is a fraction of a robotic milker. How is that even possible? I mean, people have gone to jail for less in other industries. If a trench collapses on a construction site in New York and kills 6 guys, the foreman goes away, the owner gets indicted. Why is agriculture different?
This is where we get into the weeds of the ag gap. And listen, I know regulation talk can be dry, but this is crucial for every operator to understand because it completely defines your liability. OSHA cited these as serious violations, not willful violations.
Break that down. What's the difference between serious and willful? Isn't dead serious enough?
Serious means there was a hazard that could cause death or serious harm, and the employer knew or should have known about it. But a willful violation is a whole different legal beast.
Okay.
Willful means the employer knew the standard existed and consciously chose to ignore it. It implies intent or just plain indifference. Willful violations carry much higher fines, over $160,000 per violation, and most importantly, they're the only category that can trigger criminal referrals.
So because it wasn't willful, there is 0 chance of jail time.
Correct. The maximum for a willful violation causing death is a misdemeanor and 6 months in jail. But since these weren't classified as willful, even that is off the table.
But how was it not willful? They didn't have a written program. They didn't have the training. That seems pretty willful to me. If I drive without a license, I'm willfully driving without a license.
Here is the catch, and this is the ag gap. There is no standard to be willful about.
Wait, back up. There is no standards.
Agriculture has no specific OSHA confined space standard. If you are in grain handling, there's a standard 1910.272. If you're in construction, there's a massive standard, Part 1926. If you're a dairy farm, you fall under the general duty clause.
The general duty clause. That's the catch, all right. Keep the workplace free of recognized hazards.
Exactly. But it's vague. OSHA's own fact sheet for agriculture calls confined space rules a guide, not a standard.
A guide. So legally speaking, it's like a suggestion.
In a courtroom setting or an enforcement setting, yes. It makes it nearly impossible to prove willfulness because the defense can just say, hey, there isn't a specific rule telling me I had to do X, Y, and Z in this specific way. The employer can argue they were following general industry practices, even if those practices were fundamentally unsafe.
That is the ag gap. We basically operate in this regulatory Wild West. So because the government hasn't explicitly told us exactly how to manage a manure pit, we can't be held criminally liable when someone dies in one.
That is the dark irony of it all. The lack of regulation actually protects the employer from criminal liability. And then there's a headcount rule, too.
Oh, yeah, the 1976 congressional rider.
Right. Tell the listeners about that one.
It's a provision that's been attached to OSHA's funding bill every single year since 1976. It literally prevents OSHA from spending any funds to inspect farms with 10 or fewer employees unless they have a labor camp.
So if you're a smaller operation, OSHA literally isn't allowed to knock on your door until someone dies.
Basically, yeah. It creates this invisibility cloak for small farms. You can have the most dangerous operation in the county, but as long as you keep your payroll under 11 people, the federal government can't touch you until the bodies drop.
But as the article points out, the gas doesn't check your head count.
No, it certainly doesn't. The gas doesn't care if you have 9 employees or 900. It kills you just the same. And this leads us to the segment I really want to dig into. Follow the money. The economics of safety. Because I hear farmers say all the time, safety is expensive. All this red tape costs money. I can't afford a safety director.
Let's run the barn math, as you'd like to say.
Yeah.
The source material actually breaks this down item by item. Let's look at the actual cost of prevention versus the cost of the catastrophe.
Let's do it. What does it cost to stop this from happening? Give me the invoice.
Okay, to prevent this tragedy, you need a 4-gath monitor. This is a handheld device that sniffs the air for oxygen, H2S, carbon monoxide, and combustible gases. A good one, like the Honeywell BW Flex 4 mentioned in the report, is about $700 to $900.
That's the price of a decent heifer calf? Maybe. A cheap one.
You need a ventilation blower to push fresh air into the space. That's $250 to $900. You need a tripod and winch system for retrieval so you don't have to jump in. That's the big ticket item, about $1,500 to $2,000. And you need training. Let's say $1,200 to $2,400 to get a consultant out there for a day.
Okay, tally that up for me.
Total year one costs between $3,800 and $6,500.
$6,500 max.
Yeah.
To outfit a mid-sized dairy with a complete confined space safety system. Now let's compare that to what we spend on other things. What's a replacement dairy cow costing these days?
So it says around $3,110 per head.
So for the price of 2 cows, you could have prevented 6 deaths. Let's go bigger. A robotic milker. Everyone wants robots. What are they running?
$150,000 to $200,000 per unit, easily.
We will sign a loan for $250,000 for a robot without blinking because we see the ROI, we see the labor savings, we see the somatic cell count drop. But we won't spend $900 on a monitor because why? Because we don't think it'll happen to us.
That's the cognitive bias.
Yeah.
I've done this 1,000 times. But here is the other side of the ledger, and this is where the business case for safety becomes absolutely undeniable, the cost of not doing it. We talked about the $41,000 OSHA fine. That's a line item. A farm can absorb that. It sucks, but it doesn't shut the lights off.
It's the price of a used truck. It hurts, but it doesn't bankrupt you.
But the civil settlement, that is the farm killer. The source notes that wrongful death settlements in agricultural confined space cases typically range from $10 million to $17 million.
10 to 17 million. Let that sink in for a second.
And insurance has limits.
Oh yeah, your standard farm policy. Maybe you have $1 million in liability. Maybe you have an umbrella for $2 million or $5 million if you're really buttoned up. But $17 million, that is the land. That is the cows. That is the quota if you have it. That is the legacy. Gone.
So the argument is simple. The OSHA fine is negligible. The lawsuit is the real threat. Prevention costs the price of 2 cows. The risk is losing the entire farm.
When you put it that way, it's not even a choice. It's just bad business to skip safety. It's bad math. If you saw a nutritional deficiency that was costing you 10% of your production, you'd fix it tomorrow morning. This is a risk deficiency that could cost you 100% of your equity.
It is bad math. And yet the industry reaction, or really the lack thereof, is what we need to discuss next. Segment 5, the industry response. Because this is where I get incredibly frustrated as an analyst.
This was the part of the deep dive that got me a little heated too. Because usually when something threatens the industry, we circle the wagons, right? We mobilize.
Right. Look at foot and mouth disease, FMD. The source points out that in December 2025, the National Milk Producers Federation, NMPF, published detailed preparedness materials on FMD. Biosecurity protocols, vaccines, supply chains. The works.
Which is good. We need that. FMD would devastate us. But where was the stand down for safety after 6 guys died in Colorado?
The response from DFA, Dairy Farmers of America, and NMPF was well muted. They issued condolences. They pointed to the Voluntary Farm Program safety checklists.
Voluntary checklists. That feels like a cover your assets response to me. It doesn't feel like leadership. If we had 6 cows die from a mystery disease in a pump room, we'd have a task force there the next morning. We'd have university researchers swabbing the walls. We'd have webinars. But 6 men die and we get a press release.
It is a stark contrast. The article specifically calls out the silence. No new task force. No industry-wide push. It raises the uncomfortable question, are we just comfortable with a certain level of casualty as the cost of doing business?
I really hope not. But the silence speaks volumes. However, we can't paint everyone with the same brush here. There is one exception.
Idaho.
Yes, the Idaho Dairymen's Association, IDA. They are the outlier here.
Credit where credit is due. Back in 2016, they had some deaths. And Rick Nair, about the CEO over there, called it a wake-up call. They didn't just issue a statement. They launched a real training program.
They are now training 400 operations. They have dedicated safety consultants actually going onto farms. And the national numbers suggest incidents are declining potentially because of leadership exactly like that. But Colorado, no such program was in place.
And that raises a contrarian point about the business model itself. Look at who was involved here. You had the Farm Prospect Ranch, you had a contractor Fisk, and High Plains Robotics, and another contractor, HD Builders.
Right, the web of liability.
Are we using the independent contractor model to shield ourselves? Like, oh, that wasn't my employee, that was the manure guy, that was the robot tech. It's a very valid question. The fines were split. If those men were all direct employees of the farm, maybe the farm takes the full hit. By outsourcing the maintenance, the liability gets fractured.
But the tragedy doesn't get fractured, the grief doesn't get split up, it all falls on those families. And practically speaking, as a farmer, if a contractor dies on my property, my insurance is still getting sued. It doesn't really protect you in the end.
And speaking of the families, let's talk about the workforce implications. This is segment 6. Who is actually doing this work?
We know who is doing the work. Over 50% of dairy workers are immigrants. In places like Idaho, it's 90%.
And at Prospect Valley, all 6 victims were Hispanic, 5 from the same extended family. They were Spanish speakers.
This brings up the language barrier. We talked about that supervisor who said, don't go in. What language did he say it in?
The report doesn't specify, but it strongly emphasizes that the do not enter training must be in the worker's native language to break that rescue cascade. If you yell stop in English to a guy who speaks Spanish and is running on pure adrenaline to save his son, he might not even hear you. It's just noise.
It has to be internalized. And that means cultural competence, not just a translated handbook sitting in a drawer that nobody ever reads. You have to look them in the eye and make sure they understand this pit will kill you.
The source also touches on a darker connection here. Mental health.
Yeah. We know dairy farming is insanely stressful. Suicide rates are 3.5 times higher than the general population.
The question the deep dive asks is, does the lack of safety protocols reflect a deeper lack of care for human life, both for the workers and the owners themselves?
That cuts really deep. But think about it. If you don't value your own life enough to take a break or seek help or sleep more than 4 hours a night, do you value your employee's life enough to buy a gas monitor? It's all connected. A culture of just get it done at all costs kills people. Sometimes it's a suicide, sometimes it's a gas leak, sometimes it's a tractor rollover, but it's the exact same root cause. We treat ourselves and our people like machinery.
Get it done alive needs to be the new motto.
Exactly. Get it done is just not enough anymore.
So, partner, we've laid out the problem. We've looked at the terrifying economics. We've looked at the regulatory failure. But we are the bullvine. We don't just complain, we fix things. We want our listeners to walk away with a solid plan.
That's right. We aren't here to just admire the problem.
So imagine a listener, a farmer. He's just finished milking. He's driving to the feed store right now. He's thinking, I don't want to be the next headline. I don't want to lose my farm. And I definitely don't want to lose my guys. One of the 3 things he needs to do. Let's break it down into immediate, medium term, and long term.
All right. Takeaway number 1. This is for this week. Before you dump another load of feed, before you sign another check,
Go for it.
buy a 4-gas monitor. The article recommends the Honeywell BW Flex 4, but there are others. It's $700 to $900. Buy 2 if you can, but definitely buy 1.
And what do they do with it? Don't just leave it in the box on the dashboard.
Yeah, clip it on, and you have the talks. This is the one breath conversation. You get your crew together and you do it in their language. Get a translator if you have to. And you tell them if this thing beeps you back out. If someone goes down, you call 911. You do not go in.
No heroes.
No heroes, just survivors. That's step 1.
Okay, step 2. Medium term. The next 3 to 6 months.
You need to tag the spaces, go to every pit, every pump room, every enclosed area, and slap a danger no entry sign on it.
Yep.
Make it visible, make it bilingual.
And the gear.
Get the rest of the kit. Buy the ventilation blower. Buy the rescued tripod and winch. You hope you never use the tripod, but if you need it right now. You can't wait for the fire department to bring one that takes 20 minutes. You have 4 minutes before brain damage starts.
And what about training?
Formal training. Hayeswhoop or OSHA offers courses. It's like $50 a person online. Get the certificates. Put them in the file. Prove that you take this seriously. If OSHA ever does show up showing them those certificates, change the conversation immediately.
Okay, takeaway number 3. Long-term positioning. 1 to 2 years out.
Systematize it. You need a written, confined-space entry permit program. This is what the big boys in other industries do. You don't just walk into a dangerous room. You sign a permit. You check the air. You log it.
It sounds like a lot of paperwork.
It is paperwork, but it's paperwork that saves lives. It forces you to pause. It breaks the autopilot.
And maintenance.
Annual refresher training. And calibrate those monitors. A monitor that hasn't been calibrated in 3 years is just a paperweight. It gives you false hope, which is worse than no hope.
And the culture change.
That's the big one. Shift from get it done to get it done alive. If you see a guy cutting a corner, you stop him. Not because you're a nag, but because you want him to go home to his kids. You have to love your people enough to be annoying about safety.
Really powerful stuff. And before we wrap, I just want to leave you with a final thought to mull over. We talked about how easy it is to distance ourselves right, to think it's just contractors, or it's just a freak accident. But ask yourself this. If it was your own 17-year-old son standing at the edge of that pump room, what price would you put on his life? Would you hesitate over a $900 monitor then?
Man, when you put it like that, it really puts it in perspective. Look, I know farming is hard, margins are tight, I know milk prices are incredibly volatile, but looking at the names of those 6 men, looking at a 17-year-old kid, there is no margin tight enough to justify that.
Absolutely not. The confined space program that could have saved them costs about 2 cows. That's the real headline here.
Don't let your pump room be a trap, folks. Check your gear.
This has been another deep dive from the Bovine Podcast. For more street-talking industry analysis and maybe some lighter topics next time, head to www.thebovine.com.
Subscribe wherever you get podcasts. We're out with new episodes every day. And coming up, we'll be tackling the latest shifts in feed crop futures. So stay tuned for that. Stay safe out there, everyone.
We'll see you next time.